A paranormal investigator decided to explore a completely abandoned shopping mall in downtown Nelp de Rueras in the state of Mexico. During the investigation, he came across something unsettling. The footage, dated November 28, 2022, shows a humanoid figure appearing in the middle of one of the deserted corridors. The entity remained still, staring directly at the camera without making any sound or showing any noticeable movement. Within seconds, it vanished as if it had dissolved into the air, leaving the investigator terrified. Concerned for his own safety, he decided to leave the location immediately. On August 28, 2022, a home security camera in Pensacola, Florida, recorded an equally strange situation. A young woman was sitting in the living room watching television with her dogs when she suddenly raised her hand and started pulling her own hair, believing that something had pulled it. Curiously, none of the dogs reacted by barking or showing any sign of alert, which made her think she might have bumped into something by accident. It was only when reviewing the footage that she realized her hair was being gently pulled by an invisible force, with no apparent source in the scene.
Dispatch, we're at the vehicle now. Driver's side door is open. Car's running, but there's nobody inside.
You serious?
Dead serious. It's just empty.
At a police station in Trstenik, Serbia, security cameras captured something that left all officers completely confused. While monitoring the screens, an officer noticed a white, mist-like figure appear in a restricted corridor where absolutely no one was allowed to enter. The hazy shape moved in a smooth, continuous way before disappearing. At first, they believed it could have been a recording glitch, but that theory was dismissed when the figure appeared again. Although it had no defined shape, its movements were far too precise to be random. The video was reviewed several times, and still no one could find a plausible explanation, raising the possibility that it truly was a ghost. In 2019, a frightening incident occurred in Managua, Nicaragua. The owner of a house that was still under construction suspected that someone had broken in and called the police. However, when an officer arrived to investigate, he quickly realized that it didn't seem to be an ordinary intruder. Inside the residence was a dark figure covered in black clothing, with an oddly distorted face and glowing eyes in the dim light. Unsure of what it was, the officer chose not to enter right away. Instead, he recorded the scene and called for backup over the radio. Before any other team arrived, the mysterious figure vanished without leaving any trace. A woman who lived alone in a house where paranormal phenomena occasionally occurred decided to perform a cleansing ritual using a sage stick, believing that it could drive away any unwanted presence. But as soon as she began the ritual, the atmosphere changed drastically. Objects started falling for no apparent reason, and strange movements appeared around her. A camera installed in the bedroom recorded all the activity as she tried to understand what was happening. The invisible force seemed to follow her from room to room, knocking items over along the way, until, in terror, she fled the house. For her safety, she stayed outside, waiting for her son to return before entering again.
What the? Oh my god! Oh my god!
In the forests of Banyuwangi in eastern Java, Indonesia, a local resident was walking through the area when he came across a disturbing scene. A frightening figure standing right in front of a cave surrounded by several lit candles. It was impossible to tell whether it was a person performing some kind of ritual or something much more sinister that had been summoned there. Without understanding what he had just witnessed, the man kept his distance. As soon as the entity noticed his presence, it made a sudden movement and disappeared into the darkness, causing the resident to run back down the path in desperation. A young mother began to notice strange behavior in her small son. He often stopped on his own, staring into an empty corner of the room while murmuring words, something she initially interpreted as a child's imagination. One time she recorded a video for TikTok showing the boy staring at the bathroom vent while speaking softly, as if he were saying goodbye to someone she couldn't see. When asked about it, the boy insisted that there was a ghost talking to him. In the days that followed, the scene repeated itself. He talked to the fan, blew kisses, and seemed to interact with something invisible, leaving the mother increasingly uneasy. What she hoped was just an imaginative phase began to raise real concern for her son's safety and well-being. A paranormal enthusiast recorded footage that quickly gained attention on TikTok, showing suspicious movement inside an empty house. In the video, fragile, almost translucent shapes can be seen moving near the windows, as if several figures were walking inside the property. The video creator suggested it could be the presence of an entire family of spirits, as the movements appeared small but surprisingly coordinated. The most curious fact is that the owner had locked the house and left the country weeks earlier, eliminating any chance of human activity. The coincidence led viewers to debate whether it was just a lighting effect or something much more unusual lingering inside the abandoned home. Around 3 a.m. in Manila, Philippines, 2 security guards were finishing their patrol when a loud noise echoed through the empty corridor of an old building. Following the sound, they reached the emergency exit, where the lights were flickering irregularly. The noise was coming from the emergency door cabinet, which was repeatedly slamming open and shut on its own. The door was not mechanical and could only be moved manually, which made the situation even more disturbing. After a few minutes, the banging stopped as abruptly as it had begun, returning the corridor to silence. The episode left both men so shaken that from that day on, they avoided that area of the building during their night rounds. In Austin, Texas, an employee at a crematorium reported an unusual episode at the end of her shift. After noticing the strange activity once again, she decided to record it as proof. The footage shows the lid of an occupied urn moving on its own to the point of almost being removed. Shortly after, something appears to enter and leave the room, captured by the camera as a subtle but visible movement. Many attributed the phenomenon to a spirit, while others suggested it could have been the soul of the deceased, leaving the urn and wandering the surroundings. Late one night, 2 friends, Brian and Connor, decided to investigate a local rumor about something unusual hidden near an old sewer, disturbing enough that some residents considered calling the police. As they got closer, curiosity turned to fear. From the shadows behind the grate, a pale, distorted figure began to emerge, crawling out of the sewer. Its movements were slow, rigid, and strangely human. Frightened by what they witnessed, the 2 fled immediately and reported an incident to the authorities.